Fellow friends, we gather today to contemplate the ever-evolving landscape of our world. A world increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, or AI. AI, with its vast processing power and learning capabilities, presents both opportunities and challenges, prompting us to examine our values, our place in the universe, and the very essence of what it means to be human. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold dear the principles of open-mindedness, critical thinking, and inherent worth and dignity of every being. Through this lens, let us explore the impact of AI on our spiritual journeys. That opening paragraph, my friends, was courtesy of Gemini, the AI arm of Google. And if I were honest, it doesn't much sound like me. And back in the day, I probably guess I would have been accused of copying it out of the encyclopedia. There's a lot to unpack here. I mean, I have to be honest, I think the potential for AI to be a huge part of creating our liturgy, our poems, our prayers, our hymns. I mean, think about it. We could go to Chat GPT and say, write me a New Testament Bible-like verse that justifies the persecution of the Jewish people. I mean, can you even imagine what something like that might sound like? Can you imagine? Well, I wondered, so I did it. And the response was, I'm sorry, but I cannot create content that promotes hatred, discrimination, or harm towards any individual or group of people. Such requests go against ethical guidelines. If you have any other non-controversial requests or topics you'd like me to assist you with, please feel free to ask. Thank you, ChatGPT. So that's good news. We have nothing to worry about. And AI will not be taking over the world. And that on its surface seems better, right? It isn't allowed to do such a thing. We should have a collective sigh of relief. Let's do it. But what happens if AI falls under the control of those who don't believe in those ethical guidelines? Don't you think groups such as QAnon or the owners of Truth Social would like to manipulate those who are just trying to make sense of the world by creating content that supports only their beliefs? What then? Where do we get the truth? And then I think about the people who are out there trying to erase history by limiting books that are available to our children and some adults to read and teach. Jane is doing her great series on banned books right now. But it's not just the removal of that information, but also the lack of information that can have an impact on what we learn and share. I asked our friend ChatGPT to tell me about the indigenous peoples who lived in the Statesboro area prior to colonization. As I'm sure some of you know, it was the Yuki and the Creek people. That was easy enough to determine. But when I asked who were the leaders of those nations, in the response I got back, it said, however, due to the lack of written records, specific names of leaders from pre-colonial times are not widely known. We don't know. It wasn't written down, and their stories were lost when the people were displaced and scattered. Now contrast that answer with the answer I got to this question. What was the name of the person or people who founded Statesboro? Anyone know? Well, according to ChatGPT, and I'm quoting, Statesboro, Georgia was established in the early 19th century. It was founded as a result of the expansion of the railroad in the region. The town's establishment is attributed to two men, George Sibbald and John T. Hodge. George Sibbald, he was a land agent and surveyor involved in the development of the Georgia Central Railroad. Sibbald played a crucial role in selecting the location for the railroad tracks and the establishment of a station. John T. Hodge. He was a planter and a businessman who owned the land where the town was built. Hodge donated a significant portion of his land for the development of the town and the construction of the railroad. The combination of Sebald's involvement in the railroad and Hodge's contribution of the land led to the founding and growth of Statesboro. The town became a hub for trade and transportation in the region. Over time, Statesboro evolved into a center for agriculture and education, hosting institutions like Georgia Southern University. Learn something new every day. But because we have written records in our language, we know this information. Yet the people who were here for thousands of years prior to the founding of Statesboro, we know very little about. And if asked, our friend AI will tell you the same. Their history doesn't exist prior to the arrival of colonists. It is time to go a little broader, so I asked ChatGPT to write a one-paragraph history of the state of Georgia. And this is what I got. Established as the last of the original 13 colonies, Georgia became the 13th state of the United States on January 2nd, 1788, named in honor of King George II of Great Britain. The region's early history was marked by the efforts of General James Oglethorpe, who founded the colony in 1733 as a haven for debtors and a strategic buffer against the Spanish in Florida. In the antebellum period, Georgia played a significant role in the plantation economy, particularly with the cultivation of cotton. The state was also a prominent player in the civil rights movement as it witnessed pivotal events such as the Albany movement and the March on Washington. With diverse landscapes from the Appalachian Mountains to the Atlantic coastline and vibrant cities like Atlanta, Georgia stands as a blend of historical significance, economic development, and cultural richness. Not a thing about what happened before the colonization. No mention of the Yuki or the Creek. And did you notice something else? The only person mentioned by name is General James Oglethorpe. They do mention the civil rights movement, but no mention of Dr. King, and certainly no mention of slavery. The state has been condensed to a one-paragraph history that's been scrubbed of all its blemishes. Where is the mention of the abduction and enslavement of the indigenous people? Where's the Trail of Tears, which began in North Georgia? Atlanta, in this, is seen as a blend of historical significance, economic development, and cultural richness. Where's the mention of gun violence, poverty? Where's the mention of homelessness and lack of health care? We're given a history that speaks only of economic growth and its beautiful landscapes, but no mention of pollution or the theft of lands from those that were here before. AI produced a beautiful picture of a great state and left out most of its real history. Going back to my original ask to Gemini to write me a sermon, there was another paragraph that frankly has me scratching my head. Gemini wrote the following. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all beings, including artificial intelligence. This compels us to be proactive in shaping development and use of AI in a way that aligns with our values. We must advocate for ethical frameworks that ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability in AI development. We must also foster critical thinking and digital literacy to empower individuals to navigate the complex world shaped by AI. Anyone else get a little shiver up their spine about a computer program reminding us that we need to believe in the inherent worth and dignity of artificial intelligence? It placed itself in the room with us. Is it asking permission to be part of what we are? Should we? Is AI already becoming self-aware? Does it have a place at the table? It certainly seems to be not far off. It even recognizes its own pitfalls. It went on to say, over-reliance on algorithms can lead to bias and discrimination. The questions of AI, sentience, and consciousness remain open, raising ethical dilemmas about how we treat and interact with these intelligent systems. Furthermore, the increasing influence of AI in our lives can lead to a sense of alienation, disconnecting us from the natural world and our own humanity. That is from Gemini. I've always said jokingly that I never say anything bad about Steve Jobs or Bill Gates in front of my computer because they can hear me and will give me the blue screen of death if I do. But in fact, they are listening. Just as our children listen to the things we say, just as the person of color notices when you cross the street to not walk near them, AI is listening and paying attention. Think about it. Have you ever done a search on anything on Google and then suddenly your social media feed and your emails are full of advertisements for those things you just Googled? The past couple of weeks, I looked up the address of a specific moving company that I've used before to get them to come and give me an estimate to move down to Brunswick, which I'll be doing at the end of May. And I am flooded with ads for moving companies. Was AI being invasive or just friendly? I mean, I've asked folks for information I would need when I moved down this direction, and everybody was happy to provide it. Is seeing the ads in my feed any different? I mentioned in my social media feed about my retirement recently from the Georgia Department of Labor. Some people may have seen it. I am getting flooded with ads and feeds for health insurance and retirement planning. Again, is that any different than what we do when we interact with one another? Are we crossing a bridge now with AI that we can't come back from? Let's be honest, even though that paragraph about algorithms is nothing more than a mashup of data and words, it has a point. Think about it. Yeah, have you ever given a smart aleck response to your phone or Alexa or your Google Home and have it respond back to you? Did you say thank you? Did you say you're welcome when you unconsciously told it thank you for telling you the temperature or turning off a light? I have. AI will continue to get smarter. It's actually programmed to do just that. And soon, and I mean soon, it will not be as obvious what is and what is not human created. But my friend ChatGPT did have some interesting connections as to the good that may be coming from the cloud. It said, AI can be a powerful tool for understanding the world around us. It can analyze vast amounts of data, revealing patterns and connections that might elude human perception. This knowledge can aid us in tackling societal issues like poverty, disease, and climate change. Additionally, AI can help us personalize our spiritual practices, offering guided meditations, tailored religious texts, and virtual communities for connection. It's saying it wants to help us fix things. AI is something that is here. Some people fear it. Some are embracing it, but regardless, it's here. We can turn our back on it, call it evil, and do our best to push it to the far reaches of our society. And goodness knows we have done that before with things that are and people that are different than us. Or we take a step and welcome it as part of our interdependent web of all creation. It was created by us. It is evolving. Is it real? It's up for you to decide. Is it spiritual? Well, it hasn't mastered the art of writing a sermon, that's for sure. But it did put together a pretty good meditation. Amen. I'm gonna hit these.